Welcome to the Cancerian season. There's going to be a full moon in a couple days from when I'm recording this. It is the 22nd of June in 2025. I've been looking at the ephemeris and I've decided that this time I will, instead of giving details about degrees and planets and all of that, I'm going to give you just the general gist of what I'm seeing. I highly recommend looking at an ephemeris. One thing that I definitely learned today, and I'm sharing with you right now, is sometimes we don't all look at an ephemeris. And someone could say something that's a little off. And then another publication or another individual could repeat that. And then it turns into this string of repetitive stuff sometimes, which could be way off. So looking at the ephemeris is great. And one thing that I definitely noticed today that I'm not sure if I ever really thought about it that clearly before today is the degrees of our full moons, for example, and our new moons, for example, which we're going to be having a new moon in a couple days, and our sun and things like that, it can be different depending on what part of the world you're in. So that can be a really fun thing to look at too for if you have people that you care about in other parts of the world, or if you have an interest in the other part of the world. So for example, today we have, we're moving into 0 degrees Cancer on the other side of the world, but where I'm at, we're already at 1 degree Cancer. And the difference between 0 and 1 is pretty huge. Like 0 would represent protection, and then 1 would represent the ego. I'm sticking to 1 being the representation of the ego. I have heard an astrologer or two say it's the heart, but we've got a lot going on with the number 1 and 1 degrees, especially happening in Leo season in August. And it's really important that we recognize, especially there's going to be some things happening with Saturn and Aries, and it's important that we recognize that 1 is about ego. It's not about the heart. It's about the ego development. It's really important to notice that, because there is a really big difference between the ego and the heart. So we have Cancer, which is about protection. And the Cancer, you can think of it as like a crab inside of its shell. Well, we have this type of energy on one part of the planet. It's in this protective degree that's just enhancing what it already is, which is about protection, because anything can happen. And this liminal space, like what's going to happen, birth, death, it's 0 represents that liminal space in between. And then another part of the earth, it's 1 degree, and 1 is the ego. 1 is, and by ego, what that is the ego is very much about survival. It's the more reptilian part of the brain. It's having a good, healthy ego has to do with how well we were nurtured between the ages of 0 and 25 or 26. They say the brain stops forming at around 25, 26, 27. How well we were nurtured and programmed during those years. That is our ego development. How much of our basic needs were met? How did we learn life? So part of the world is all about the ego, and part of the world is all about protection. And this is all happening within a sign that has to do with protection and security. So when I looked at the upcoming Cancerian season, and I looked at the new moon that's starting in a couple of days, I saw a lot of, oh, and I drew some cards too. And the cards actually I drew first before I looked at the degrees. And it all kind of said similar things, which was interesting and surprising to me. But it says that from what I'm getting, this Cancerian season in June and July, a lot of people are going to be thinking about their own security, home security, kind of like the crab in its shell, looking out for number one, especially with the alignments where the planets that are moving through Aries. The beginning of July will also have this will be at 3 degrees Pluto again, just like we were in the beginning of June, and then it goes right back to 2 degrees. So it's this belief. There is a belief that is karmic, that has already been established. And the beliefs that have been brought along will be at the forefront in the beginning of July. And then those beliefs will determine what individuals that are very much looking out for themselves pair up with other individuals that are very much looking out for themselves. So in overall, it's the very beginning of a very, very, very long occurrence. And in this very long occurrence, this is the very beginning of looking out for number one and having challenges at coming together in negotiation. And this is happening with a lot of individuals. And I've been talking about Aquarius and Pluto a lot all along, because that's what's furthest away. So it's the eagle eyes view. So what the eagle eyes view is with Aquarius and Pluto is, it's like a very long kind of revolutionary type energy. It's a long period of changing in regards to humanity being more equal, more fair, etc. But on this path, what's happening in this particular month is a lot of individuals are, for the first time in maybe in their entire lives, or for the first time in a long time, really hyper focused on looking out for number one and making sure that they're feeling safe and secure within their world. We also, within their like a little world, inside their little Cancerian shell, so like their personal self and the people closest to them. There was something I was just going to say, but I forgot it. It went out. Boop. Oh, Virgo. So Mars is in Virgo. Virgo has to do, so I am going to say planets and like things, but people are going to be working really hard. And that is indicative not just of the Cancerian season and the Cancerian energy, which is very hardworking and very much about security. But Virgo, it likes to pay attention to fine details. So that could be something as simple as taking pictures of everything that you own and making lists of everything that you own. Virgo type qualities, like very detailed. Also health, thinking about, what are the healthiest ways to be, the healthiest things to put in the body, the healthiest things to have at home. But it's a lot of hard work. And there's going to be an energy behind hard work. And there's going to be a lot of energy with Mars being in Virgo, which Mars is very fiery and Aries type energy. That being very much directed towards self, work. And in the long-term eagle-eyes view of everything, this can be a really good thing. Despite like everything being so full of so many changes and so many unexpected changes, over the long term, this is a really good time to be birthing something or starting something that could be lasting a really long time and have a very long, a huge impact on humanity for a long period of time. So putting your nose to the grind. One of the cards I was drawing was saying like stay grounded. Stay grounded and focused on working hard and build whatever you're working hard at for yourself. It needs to be what is fueling your ego. It needs to be what you need for your own development, for your own human development. Because while on a psychic level and on a psyche level and in psychology, our brains and our minds are developing till 26, 27-ish, our souls and our bodies and our ability for neuroplasticity keeps developing through our entire life, so we can still work on contributing to our ego development. But whatever you found yourself continually returning to or fantasizing about between the ages of 0 and 27, you're hopefully working on whatever that is right now, because just like the flapping of a butterfly wing, no matter how great or small that ripple is, it is going to have the blueprint in its design to make huge impact over a very long period of time, over a couple of centuries. And you're all a part of that. So, hard work, we have very, very individual, the me, what's good for me, am I safe, do I have everything I need, all of these kinds of energies happening all through the month. Big feelings, for sure. What else? The month of the Leo transit, August, the middle, like end of July, beginning of August really jumped out at me. There's a lot going on in next month. So I would say really rest up. Do whatever you can. Like if you're in the northern hemisphere and you like summer, get out there and enjoy it and get cozy as much as you can, as much as it's safe to do so. Because there's going to be a lot of unpredictable changes happening in August. So just, and it's unpredictable. And it's the kind of things where the fate is determined on the stopping of a dime. So it's not necessarily something you could prepare for. It's just going to be the way that it is when it happens. And that type of energy is going to be carrying on all through that transit. So, but we're in this transit right now. We're in the Cancerian sun traveling. So take it easy, rest up, do anything that is paying attention to detail in regards to your own security, your own well-being, your own finances, your own home, your emotions too. It's really interesting because the degrees of Saturn versus the degrees of Neptune and even Pluto, it's very much like me, and then there's like the relation to other, and it's me and then the relation to other, but it's more of a me type energy through the entire transit on many levels. Someone had mentioned moon void, of course, in one of the things I had listened to, and that's something that happens like 20 times every month. Every time the moon changes signs, which is almost as much as the sun does, or not, nowhere near. Sorry, we still have some Gemini energy, and sometimes we can say opposite of what we mean. But what I mean is that it changes like 20 times, and there's like a pause between the moon changing signs, about 20 times every month. That really doesn't change, like that happens every month. But one astrologer I was listening to was like, their voice sounded like it was really important, and now I'm not really sure what they were saying, but I was like, wonder what they were saying that made it sound so important. I think there was a publication that was saying that it was happening more this month than usual, but it's not really. It's the same. So that's one thing that's like, it's good to like look at the ephemeris and always like just kind of double check things. But one thing I did look at was when you add up the degrees, what number like occurred the most through those pauses that we take every time the moon changes signs. So we take a little pause, and it has to do with our ability to be able to take in information from our unconscious. So if that's something that you are working on, that's really useful for you to know. And the type of folks that can benefit from that type of shadow work are maybe people who struggle with addiction, which there was a lot in astrology about that through the Sagittarius moon in this past transit, this past month. There was a lot around, a lot of possibilities for folks to grow through their journey on handling addiction stuff. But the usefulness of taking those pauses in between the moon changing signs is if you're trying to access things that are suppressed or repressed. There may be people that don't remember all of their childhood, or people that still struggle with habits that they picked up during their childhood through examples or whatever. There's when you take those pauses and you do shadow type work. So and Cancer is represented as the moon in the tarot, which is a collective unconscious like picture book basically of all of our type of archetypes. So maybe that's important. For some folks, Cancerian time can be a great time for shadow work. And it, once again, shadow work is merely looking at all of those, giving yourself an opportunity to remember your dreams. When I was getting my doctorate in that had a lot of Jungian teachings, one of the professors said the best way to remember your dreams is to eat pizza right before bed. Because I guess like if it doesn't settle with your stomach, you'll be up a lot. So if you wake up a lot throughout the night, you'll remember your dreams. But I don't know. I don't have to do that. But some of us, you know, if you want to do shadow work, Cancerian season is a good time for that. So I had drawn some cards, and I basically told you the message between the cards and the degrees in the ephemeris for this month. I'm going to draw one more card, and this would be, so for this new moon, we know that we're working really hard on building something that's going to like probably have some sort of impact for the next couple centuries. What do we need to know the most about this transit, and as we're working on building and paying attention to details, and we're very, very much motivated to work hard. So I got the Emperor, Emperor. Okay. And today I'm going off of this book. It's called The Red Tarot. It's written by Christopher Marmolejo. Christopher Marmolejo. It's a decolonial guide to divinatory literacy. Okay. Let's see. Emperor. Oh, it's a 4 card. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and read this to you and see if any of this resonates with you or with anything I've already said, which it probably will because I drew the card after I spoke. Let's see. A notion of private is absolutely necessary for there to be private property. And land property is the foundation of settler colonialism and the economic systems it has built. Before things like the French Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, before colonialism, private property essentially did not exist in Europe. I don't know. I think indigenous folks might have had some, but okay, we'll keep reading. In the age of absolute monarchs and feudalism, all land technically belonged to the monarch, with obvious variations depending on region and people. The monarch, not the butterfly, but something else, was the entity who granted rights for certain people, nobility, to make profits and occupy the lands. The monarch could take away this land if they chose. The King of Kings is pictured in bodily armor, cloaked in red, crowned and grayed. There is supposed to be nobility in the courage and valor with the emperor has confronted life's opposition. This willingness to fight against the forces that would overcome the nascent, actualized life earns them a seat of power. The card corresponds to Aries. I was mentioning Aries, and Aries can be considered 9, but it can also be considered 1 because it's the first sign of the zodiac, and it's very much about trailblazing, and it can be very much like me. It's like the fire that just came down to earth and like is trailblazing and taking off, little Spitfire energy, and yeah, it can be very much me, and it needs to learn about working with others. That independence is great, but interdependence is better because you can accomplish a lot more with interdependence. Okay, so this card corresponds to Aries, which corresponds to the head, the locus of power, that which is crowned. The Emperor is the sovereign subjectivity. The Emperor situates the 3 dimensions of time, past, present, and future, in space and pinpoints 3-dimensional space within time. Like the magician, they relate to the 4 elements, direction, seasons, moon, phases, cardinal virtues, and so on. Yet rather than meditating between realms, they aim to stand erect in their own, individuated and autonomous. Excuse me. Okay, that's interesting because we're in a very reflective, internalized type sun sign, but at the same time, like we have these Aries type energies, and they are very self-focused. So that's kind of interesting. It's not, yeah. The Emperor brings earthly, historical, temporal orientation. They establish boundaries and maintain control. The Emperor is the principle of logos, which aims to create coherence out of chaos. They are discriminatory, the aspect within us that determines what I am. That's the ego, 1, by discerning what I am not. Historically, monarchs ruled by the principle of divine right. Their rule was thought to be governed by reason. That was the custom and precedent of the ruling period. The emperor is very much the patriarch, ruling over the state as though it were his family. State power arranges gender relations to justify its legitimacy while hiding its hand in such arrangements so they are taken as normal right. The emperor at its root is concerned with authority, legitimacy, sovereignty, and legacy. Hegemonic masculinity can be defined as the configuration of gender practice, which embodies the current accepted answer to the problem of legitimacy of patriarchy, which guarantees or is taken to guarantee the dominant position of men and the subordination of women. In understanding the emperor as embodying hegemonic power, we see it shifting as historically mobile relation from kings to presidents to Wall Street bankers. The power-constructed masculinity ebbs and flows as it adopts ongoing strategies of subordination. Through the emperor, we understand patriarchy as a historical structure itself, so it is not universal nor timeless. But the emperor, in creating empire, creates alienation. For their actions and body to be put beyond any earthly authority of accountability, they must pass beyond relation as well. That's sad. Patriarchs suffer not solitariness, but loneliness in only being able to define their identity through their work. Okay, so like earlier I was saying we're going to have like a Mars in Virgo, and it's going to make us want to work. And it's great that we are going to want to do that because we're, at the beginning of like a couple centuries of major change and revolution. So like whatever we're building right now is going to have a lasting effect, whether we're alive for it or not, or whether, the rippling effect is gonna. But I was also saying, it's summertime and it's cancerian season. Cancer rules the water, and rest up this month and enjoy whatever you can enjoy, because next month, okay? So it's July, it's end of June, July, rest up as much as you can. Even though you want to work, try to pace yourself, maybe try working outside, dip in and out of the pool a few times. Like if that floats your boat. Here on the Northern Hemisphere, that's what we're doing. But definitely take moments to rest and feel the feelings. Okay, so we were saying patriarchs suffer not solitariness, but loneliness in only being able to define their identity through their work. They aim to gain respect, power, prestige bestowed by others, setting themselves apart from others with their accomplishments. Exceptionalism becomes a bandage to the wound of alienation, a bandage I proudly wore to feel validated in my intense suffering of seclusion. That's the author speaking about their experience. The emperor has shown me that being exceptional isn't revolutionary, it's lonely. Emperor must be wary of being tokenized and promoting the delusion that one cannot exist without community. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, it's about relating to others and interdependence, not just independence. I've always loved academia because it offered me recognition, a way to be seen and rewarded. Yet internalizing such metrics of self-worth came at the cost of my emotional well-being. Christopher Marmoleo, I hear you there. I completely hear you there. Okay. Well-being. Okay, the emperor has helped me honor my inner states and make courageous choices to live so that my work does not undermine the spirit. Oh, wow. Yeah. This inner restructuring happened as I endured unemployment, but started forging a commitment to selfhood over manhood. That's good. Selfhood over manhood. The emperor started to appear as I moved beyond this crisis of meaning, measured against external accomplishment, as I started to lay a solid foundation for my inherent self-worth. My work is life-enhancing as I come to it loved and loving. This work goes against hundreds of years of patriarchal conditioning. That's good. There is indeed a close interaction between the predominant Western conception of manhood and that of racial and species domination. The notion, originally from myth and fable, is that the summit of masculinity, the white hero, achieves its manhood first and foremost by winning victory over the dark beast, or over the barbarian beast of others. In some sense, darker races, nations, and social castes, or the shadow. People say, like, that's so dark. like as if like light has to dominate over darkness. The emperor helps the reader critically perceive the racialized narratives within the myth, fable, and fantasy that valorize white supremacist, capitalist, imperialist patriarchy. The king's body and being was figurative, an agent of divine decree to parcel out the earth under artifice of uniting disparate people under the banner of a single kingdom. Power was performance rather than a state of being. That is way over my head. Power was performance rather than a state of being. I don't even know what that means, but maybe you do. The emperor's logic oriented around bringing the savage, quote unquote, the barbarous, quote unquote, into the court of the king's culture, into the realm of civilization. The emperor, in order to frame themselves as human, powerful, civilized, perceives the world as wild, and foreign bodies as dangerous, savage, and inept. Myths of heroism connect racism with the construction of such masculinity. There's a lot of big words here. It is this construction of power and governance that we must contest. Within the nature of the square embodied by the emperor, various elements, various worlds are in contention. Emperors claimed it was God's determination that they should conquer foreign lands in the pursuit of culture and civilization. They made them incontestable. The emperor brings us into reality through the distinct manner of dealing with historical abuses of power, imperialism, and conquest. Emperors are concerned with the process of naming so long as it means of claiming. They read the word only to write their own name. I mean, don't we all do that? Such was the case with the land claimed on behalf of King Philip of Spain. Okay, so, and let's see. So it's going to go on to talk about examples. Okay, insofar as the emperor constructs a base of power that homogenizes a race's different power ascribed to dominance, yet the complexity of social difference cannot be erased, only repressed. I talked about the Jungle Book there for a minute, but I will skip over that. The emperor is then connected to the topology of the closet. Whereas Western hegemonic masculinity forced any divergence from heterosexuality into the closet of shame, we see the closet as a social construction crucial to whiteness and capitalism. The closet is not just about shame, but it's also about autonomy, privacy, and ownership. Oh, that makes sense. What is in the closet is private, personal, and what is out of the closet is public. Oh, that's so perfect for Cancer season, because Cancer is the crab with its shell, and it goes inside its shell, and it's like I'm private, and I've got in my cell, I'm in my shell, and it doesn't want to necessarily come out of its shell. The process of coming out then is a process by which you render what is personal public. The expectation that queer and trans people come out of the closet disregards the differential of privilege and danger inherent in rendering marginalized bodies even more public. As history reminds us, emperors claim our private bodies and our interpersonal land as their own. By moralizing the necessity of coming out, even at the risk of personal safety, bodily annexation is maintained. Echo, what's the definition of annexation?
Annexation is the act of adding new territory to an existing city, country, or state, whereby the annexed area becomes a part of the larger entity. This process is commonly used to expand the borders of a nation or state. The word annexation can also refer to the annexation of territory by a city, in which case it is considered to be a legal process. Okay. The term is most commonly used to describe the expansion of a country's borders, often through diplomatic means or international agreements.
Okay, so they're talking about personal bodies and bodily annexation. So it's like giving up our bodies for the commodification of ourselves, how most of the workers that work in the fields have like kind of given themselves over for lower pay, and like it's like giving the body to be owned by others, in a way is what it's saying, for the purpose of capitalism. That's like real big, right? And so, okay. So the emperor achieves this grafting of bodies and land into four corners of their closet by denying people agency in which they are construed as private in the first place. At the expense of their bodily integrity and privacy, non-white bodies are rendered available for public consumptions. The closer functions by forcing us to abdicate personal autonomy and repress authentic desire, expression, and embodiment to be out and yet tucked away in the emperor's domain. So the emperor asks for personal sacrifice to fulfill imaginary obligations to a community, nation, or kingdom, not nature, they took by force or inherited by chance. As the governed are inspired to ethnocentric nationalism, emperor becomes the central organizing principle of their rallying cry. The emperor tells the state is masculine institutional fused with whiteness. Okay, so you could take this according to what we already talked about with hard work, and the Virgo being in Mars, which is going to make us want to work really hard, and us. Also, some other alignments are very much saying that we're going to be focused on the self and our own security individually. We're going to be like kind of between that and who can we relate to? Because it's kind of hard to relate to others when you're so like self. And then it's cancerian season, so we also want to like take breaks for like naps and dreaming, because next month especially is going to be real rough. This was the Red Tarot by Christopher Marmolejo. The Decolonial Guide to Divinatory Literacy. So in more words or less, it's talking about when we're working really hard and we're doing really well for ourselves, it's it can get lonely, and that in that loneliness, to maintain that hard work or to maintain the ownership of whatever it is, we can start to be very separate. We can annex ourselves, or annex others, or so it's really important to recognize the interdependentness of things. Yeah, it's good to go inside of our shell, but it's also important to be more fearless, to be able to use discernment. Virgo's really good at discernment. Some people might call it judgment, but with Mars being in Virgo, it's a really good time to use the discernment. Like, is this really a danger or is it not? Is this really something to be afraid of or not? In regards to anything that would feel like it's about to fall through our fingers, so to speak. So in your personal life, that would be one way to think about those in that interpretation. If it's something that you have to like grab onto really hard, it's likely to like slip through the fingers. But remember to like open up a little more. You know, if you open up your hand a little more and don't squeeze so hard, you can actually hold a lot more. And yeah, Emperor energy can be really useful in starting new projects and working really hard and building things. it's definitely, it's all about organization and taking control of things. Um, so, yeah, this went to 40 minutes. I would prefer it be half the time that it is, but there's a reading for you for this Cancer new moon. Oh, one more thing that I saw in the ephemeris. Was on the day of the new moon, which is going to be in a couple days. It's going to be on Wednesday, the 24th-ish in the northern hemisphere. On the day of the new moon, I want you to look at, from what I could see in the degrees, this is a good thing to do. Look at all of the ways in which you have grown positively from what you believe in. Look at the things that you have desired the most or fantasized the most about that would make you the happiest in the first 27 years of your life, or look at these things and think about, it's feel, actually. Feel into all the ways that you already have grown in that direction. Feel that, because you're going to take that feeling and that's going to give you a little bit of the spirit of what it is that you're working really hard at and what you're building. Enjoy this new moon and enjoy this Cancerian season. And no matter where in the world you are, stay safe and cozy and secure, and take good care.